Hi everyone, I'm Cindy. I'm 60 years old, and my first memory of being overweight was in the first grade. When we had to weigh in front of the class, everybody would line up and you'd get on the scales and they would call out the number. And my classmates were 58, 62 pounds, maybe a 70 pounder, and I weighed in at 98 pounds. And from that moment on, I realized that I was different. Back in the late 60s, you just didn't have a lot of obesity anywhere. And it was a point of not overt bullying, but a lot of jokes, a lot of demeaning statements. So I think at that point, when you reach something like that where you're different and you are, obesity or being fat, being overweight is one of the few remaining things you can joke about even today. Back then, I mean, you watch some of the movies and you watch some of the TV shows and it's sort of you're viewed as lazy, you're viewed as being incompetent, or you just don't care about yourself, when the fact of the matter is, when you grow up overweight, or if you've ever become severely overweight, every waking moment you're aware. You're aware that you don't fit in plane seats. You're aware that you have to choose a seat at a table in a restaurant instead of a booth because you can't squeeze in hardly. You don't want to go to the movies because it's hard. So I struggled, and when I graduated from high school, I was probably 185, and that's big for back then. I graduated in 75. So I opted to take the pathway of being the class clown, the happy one, the friendly one to everyone. Got involved in school politics and, class president my senior year, things like that. And then I went to nursing school, where I was determined to understand my body. But I believed what the textbooks were saying even back then, where the food pyramid had come out probably a decade before. We were told to eat all these whole grains and breads and rolls and pasta, and then a lot of fruits, 5 to 8 fruits a day. And what it did was it perpetuated in me this constant obsession with eating. I constantly thought about food, and I constantly thought about how big I was. And the more upset I became about my size, the bigger I got. And after the birth of Rachel, my oldest daughter, I was a registered nurse. I was working in the OR, but I was topping out at about 200 pounds. And after the birth of my second child, Lauren, I was topping out at 240. 3 months later, Rachel became diabetic.
I was diagnosed with diabetes at the age of 3. And, this is so emotional. Yeah, I remember starting to struggle with my weight really young. And being a diabetic, you don't really get a choice about how that goes. Just growing up sick. And I remember coming home from school, probably 3rd or 4th grade, and seeing my school picture, and I was wearing this black shirt with these jewels on them, and bright red cheeks, bright blonde hair. And I just remember thinking, I'm so fat. And I was young. And I didn't understand the context of weight and insulin. I feel like I'm just now learning that. But I just remember always being just thick, husky. I would just use it as a joke. And I think we just tried every diet, because as a diabetic, you have to stay healthy to keep your organs functioning, and you have to live long. And so, it was always a struggle. Food was always a struggle. I remember I began sneak eating really young, because as a diabetic, you're not allowed to eat the fun foods that your sister can eat.
I've never really had body image issues or felt like insecure about how I looked. I have a husband who loves me, praise God, but after having 2 kids, life just takes its toll on your body, or it did on mine. And my husband had actually started the ketogenic way of eating while I was pregnant, and my mother, she found the exogenous ketones during that time as well, and I actually was using the supplements while I was pregnant, and I was a rock star at work. Just go throw that out there. I was following a doctor around who was he would literally run down the hall, and I could keep up with him, and it was awesome while I was 9 months pregnant because of the ketones and because I was in ketosis. And so all that to say, after I had my baby, my second child, I wasn't unhappy with my weight. Like, a lot of the baby weight came off pretty easily, but I was a new stay-at-home mom. I'd never stayed home before. I was staying at home with 2 kids with one very energetic child. My 4-year-old is a very passionate, zealous child, and he has a lot of energy, and I was struggling. Obviously I'm getting up in the middle of the night, multiple times a night, and struggling to keep up with the house, keep up with providing a peaceful home to give my children excellent, love and care, and pour into them the way I wanted to. And I just needed some more energy. I needed something to help me get through that first season that's so hard when you have a baby. And I was using the exogenous ketones, which were incredible. And let me just tell you, I love carbs. I still love carbs. I just choose to love other things now. But I was not ready to give up my pasta and my rice and my bread. And I told my husband, I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. I was not there yet. And he was very supportive, and he loved me through it. And as I loved my carbs. And he, one day, because I was like gearing up, I'm like, okay, something, okay, and he's telling me about it. And he was having such success, and my husband was not really overweight. He had a little, chub that you get when you get married and you enjoy yourself. But he was, he was trimming down, but he was more experiencing tons of brain focus, energy. He didn't have that 2 p.m. slump at work, and he works a desk job. He literally sits at his desk all day, and by 2 p.m, his brain was fried. By the time he got home, he was basically useless. Love you, babe. Sorry. But his brain was just done. And so when he went keto, and he, started eating ketogenic, he was a different person. I was like, okay, well, if he can do it, I can, And so he said, okay, listen, it was Friday evening. He said, okay, it's the weekend. Tomorrow's Saturday. Give me 2 days. Give me 2 days. I'm going to be home with you. We can do it together. I'll show you how easy it is, and just try it out. And I said, okay, you know what? That's reasonable. I can do 2 days, and then I'm going to eat rice Monday morning. And actually by Saturday evening, Sunday morning, and Sunday afternoon, it was shocking at how satisfied I was, how great I felt, how liberated I felt. And one, it was empowering because I did it. And I had never done anything like that before, to eliminate all carbs. And 2, the foods that I was eating were so delicious and luscious and wonderful. So I felt empowered. I felt I had a lot of energy. I felt really, I don't know, I felt really great about myself, and I was eating really delicious food. And so I was like, well, how can this be bad when I feel this great? And so that was kind of my journey on how I got there. I've lost about 25 pounds since having the baby, and a little bit of that was baby weight, but mostly that was ketogenic. And I will never go back. I had Cheetos in the car today. Okay, I'll just be honest. I wasn't going to say that on the video, but I am. Because my son, I bought him a bag of Cheetos, and I had some. But such is life. We live, we learn, we move on.
So I had a newborn and a type 1 diabetic after the chicken pox, and I had to work night shift. I was helping my husband with his job at the time, and I had an infant and a type 1. And I ate all the time. So I ballooned up to 305 That was my highest weight. We'll try to find a picture and post it here so you can see. And I was fortunate enough to know a surgeon, and back then I had a gastric stapling, a simple, almost like what you would call a sleeve. And I was able to lose down to about, I think I got down to about 180 for about half a second, and then I ballooned back up into the 230s, because surgery is a mechanism to give you a tool. But I was still eating so many carbohydrates, and when your blood sugar goes up and then it crashes down, you feel compelled to eat. So that's my story. And a year ago, weighing 234 pounds, feeling miserable, public speaking. The seat belts on the plane would clip together, but I'd only have that much. My sister Debbie told me about what she was eating, and I didn't want to hear it because I loved my carbs. Carbs are so addictive. But she sent me a couple videos that were scientifically sound. And I said, dang, Debbie, I can't believe I know it just makes so much sense why I'm hungry all the time. It makes so much sense that carbohydrates drive my hunger. I'll give it a try with you. Do you say I'm Steve's sister and Cindy's sister? Well, I guess I'm doing it right now, aren't I? Yeah, I'm Debbie. I'm asking her Cindy's sister, oldest one of the siblings. And I too have been overweight most of my life. I remember wearing a size 8 in the 8th grade. I don't think I had the weight issues that others in the family had right at the beginning. I was always one of the biggest ones, but I wasn't extremely overweight at the time. When I got married when I was 18 and a half, because Mom said you can't get married when you're 18, and I said Grandma got married when she was 17. When I got married at 18 and a half, I weighed 160 pounds, and I thought I was huge. The first time I joined Weight Watchers, I weighed 180, and I said, oh my God, I've gained 20 pounds. I got to lose this 20 pounds. And then it just kept creeping up. And I think when I had Christy, my eldest daughter, I weighed 195, which isn't as bad as I got. And I can't remember what I weighed with Robert, but when I was pregnant, the doctors would say, oh, you can't gain a lot of weight. So I gained 12 pounds with Christy and 16 pounds with Robert. So I can't say mine was baby weight. Mine was just Debbie weight. And so moving on, I'm 61 right now. I'll be 62 in August. I had gastric bypass surgery, the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass surgery in 2012, April of 2012. And I lost 135 pounds in about 15 months and was very happy. And then I started eating again. And eating, I mean, you eat when after you've had surgery, but I was eating the wrong things because you're supposed to eat meat and vegetables, which is basically the ketogenic diet or the low carb diet. Not diet, lifestyle. We don't want to call it a diet because we've changed the way that we eat now, and that's what we're doing. So I lost 135 pounds. I gained 60 pounds back. And when Christy took a picture of me with our grandson Chase and I saw how much weight I had gained, I just cried because I couldn't believe it. Again, it was just creeping up. So I started this on April 3rd of 2016, started the ketogenic way of eating, or low carb, high fat. And since then I've lost about 52 pounds. So I'm back right within the range that I was after I had the gastric bypass. I'm not finished, but I'm very happy with where I am right now.
So my name is Steve, and I am 53 years old. And I have had issues with my weight my entire life. I can remember being 7 or 8 years old and being at the swimming pool and noticing that I was bigger than everyone else, even though I wasn't huge, until I was in the 10th grade when I hit 200 pounds. And it was hard for me to believe because I had friends who were, 110 pounds. I had friends in middle school that could do 100 pull-ups. There was these two guys that were tiny and strong, and they would do push-ups where the coach would grab their feet, and he'd have them upside down, and they were doing push-ups down on the ground with their feet up in the air, and they could do 100 pull-ups, and I couldn't do one. Not one chin-up, and didn't have the upper body strength, and was too heavy to do it. And things like that were noticeable. I did do some sports. I played some softball and I played some soccer, and I enjoyed it, but I definitely was not in peak shape for that kind of stuff. So I joked I had to be the life of the party to make people like me. I felt like if I was funny, I could be accepted because there was no other reason for anybody to like me unless I was fun to hang around. So I dealt with that my entire life. When I moved in with my brother in Virginia Beach and lived with him for a little while, I started running a little bit and got down to 195 pounds. Then I got married in 1985. I was 205 pounds. And then I slowly started gaining weight, about 10 pounds a year, until I got up to 409 pounds. And it just can sneak up on you. You don't even realize each time you're changing a shirt size, well, I'll just go a little bigger so it's more comfortable. And I tried different weight loss techniques, but when you are addicted to carbs, addicted to sugar, you can't control it. It is like a drug, and you cannot get away from that drug. Because the more you eat, the more the insulin kicks in, then you drop back down and you're hungry again. That's why you're always hungry 30 minutes after eating Chinese food. You ingest all that rice, insulin kicks in, your blood sugar bottoms out. Hey, I'm hungry again. I always thought I was hungry, and now in my new lifestyle, I've been ketogenic for a little over a year now and have lost. I had gastric bypass surgery 5.5 years ago, lost a bunch of weight, gained some back. Now I have lost, and I am 47 pounds less than my lowest post-op weight. I am now 196 pounds at the time of recording this, which is less than I was in the 10th grade. I'm wearing 36-inch pants and medium shirts like I did back in high school.
And so I would go into the pantry when my mom was at work and my dad was home, and I knew he'd be working in the office, and I would just binge eat to the point where I'd feel swollen. I'd lay down for a nap and I'd wake up and not be miserable and then binge eat again. And mom would ask me, "What's your blood sugar?" And I would guess. I would lie and guess, and it just was such a secret addiction for me, and it was hard. Just always a struggle. And then when I was 16 and adolescence started shifting, I just put on the weight rapidly. I mean rapidly, and it never came off. Kind of till now. So yeah, just my history is, I think, just that inward struggle and just acknowledging the years of self-loathing and self-hatred and not wanting to live that way anymore.
And so I went under some medical supervision with an internal medicine doctor who is great, and she helped me. She has a program for people that want to lose weight with using ketosis, and I followed her, and then I started researching, and it's a year later. I'm in the 160s now. It's the least I think I've weighed since junior high, and I'm not kidding you. I'm 60 years old. And I weigh what I weighed when I was 14. I have places more to go. I have great goals for myself, but I'm so thrilled that I've found the answer for me. I'm so thrilled that my family's joined me in this journey. We're supportive of each other. My husband went from "there'll never be bacon in this house" to "can I fry you up some bacon, honey, before you get on the plane?" So that's sort of been my journey. I've never felt better, more mental clarity, more purpose in life, because I figured if I've struggled this much, an intelligent woman, a loving woman, who always felt horrible about herself because she couldn't seem to control what she ate, there had to be more of us out there. There had to be more of us that wanted to be set free, that deserved to know the truth that when you voluntarily restrict carbohydrates, especially processed carbs, that when you eat good nutrient-dense vegetables and you increase the good healthy fats in your diet, that you literally find your cravings for food dissipating over time. And the longer you do it, and the more lush things you find to eat. Rachel says decadent foods, they're luscious. We've lowered our carbs, we've upped our fats, we have simple, satisfying amounts of protein, and we're healthy and happy. That's lush, L-U-S-H. It's lush living. And it's a decadent way to live. And I'm thankful every day that I found this way of eating.
What has changed your life?
What changed was actually for us devastation. We had gone through 2 miscarriages in 2016, and surprisingly, my husband and I were not eating, and we were just so depressed and so devastated and walking through so much grief and not knowing how to process the grief. So in the way we weren't processing was not eating, and so my mom had just started ketogenic, and she was really, really tender with us and really cautious and really slow. She said, "You know what, sweetie?" I just remember the phone call. "You know what? Since you guys are going through everything," and she just wept with us and processed with us, but she goes, "You know, Justin," my husband, "he could eat bacon." I was like, okay, how is that a diet? How is eating bacon good for you? And so it took us a minute to get our mind around ketogenic and fat being a good thing. Salt, I still have to understand salt is good, but it was such a turnaround for us, because for me, and all the hormone imbalances through the 2 miscarriages and all of those surges that my body was going through, it brought stability. It brought peace. It brought comfort, because we were eating decadent foods after such a tragedy. And it gave us our hearts back. Gave us our lives back. And it gave me my life back as a diabetic. Yeah, so it's been the best thing that's probably happened to us physically. So after such heartache.
And I'm going to continue this. There's no need to go back to the rice and the pasta and the cookies and the candy and the things that put the weight back on you, all the sugars.
So I'll ask you a question related to this weekend with the Keto Extravaganza. How is our life as a family different when we get together now?
Oh my gosh. Now, instead of having cakes and pies and cookies and donuts and eating all the time, we get to have fun. We go outside. We were playing games out in the yard. We're getting in the swimming pool. We're running around with the kids. I can get in the floor, but the knees are still kind of bad. But it's not because of my weight now, because I can get down on the floor and play with my grandson, and I can chase him around the house. I don't run fast, but I can catch him because he doesn't run fast. So it's really changed a lot. We don't concentrate on food all the time. We concentrate on it a different way. We concentrate on the good things that we're going to eat.
So I've gone from 5X shirts and 54 pants to medium shirts and 36-inch pants right now, and these new jeans are a little loose on me too. So it has been such an incredible change in this lifestyle. And like I said earlier, when I was addicted to carbs and always hungry, I thought I was hungry. It wasn't hunger as much as it was my blood sugar bottoming out, because that's the only thing in this equation. You take in sugar, your body has basically 3 ways to get rid of it. One is it goes into your liver, where it's stored. It goes into the muscle, where it's burned, and then the excess, all it can do is shove it into your fat cells. So the insulin will open that door up and push it in, and it's like a one-way valve. As long as you've got that insulin there, it's going to hold that fat right inside. And so when it does that and it pushes it all out, and the insulin is still present and your blood sugar drops down, that stimulates the hunger, so you're going to eat again. when you live in a ketogenic lifestyle and you are just consuming a high fat, moderate protein, low carbohydrate diet, you don't have to deal with the issues of the spiking of the blood sugar and the dropping of the blood sugar. It's gone. You don't have the hunger, you don't have the cravings. You're eating the fat, which is metabolizing into ketones, your other fuel source. So you can burn glucose or you can burn ketones for energy. That's it. But the difference is the ketones, you will use those and burn those, but anything excess, your body doesn't have to internalize it. It doesn't just stay inside you. Two parts of it are excreted in your urine, and one part is exhaled with the acetone comes out, and that's why you get the bad breath. That's why I keep gum in my car, gum in my house, gum in my office. But it's well worth it to risk a little bad breath now and then. But the point is, in this lifestyle, I'm consuming this high-fat diet, which is very satisfying, very delicious food. It's simple, it's satisfying, and it's sustainable. I've been doing this for over a year. I've never been able to do anything food-wise for a year, other than continuing to eat carbs. So now, I'm not hungry. I don't have spikes in the blood sugar and drops in the blood sugar. I don't have the bully insulin holding the fat in the cells. Now I've started using intermittent fasting, and then just recently did a almost 3-day fast, 62 hours, and I wasn't hungry. It was amazing. It's a completely different feel. People think they can't give up carbs. I was all about some pizza. Well, you can make a fathead crust. There's an option. I was all about potatoes. You can do a lot with cauliflower. I was all about rice. Okay, still have sushi every now and then, but I tend to go sashimi instead of, the roll with the rice. But those kind of things, French fries, you think, oh, I can't give those up. I can't give those up. Got news for you. Not only did I give them up, I don't want them. I don't desire them. I don't crave them. And it's gotten to the point now that I truly despise the thought of eating them. I don't want to do it because I know I will feel bad later. I have not really cheated or gone off the wagon, as people say, in the last year. Maybe once or twice have a little something with carbohydrates in it, and then I can feel the difference. And I feel bad. And I don't want to spike my blood sugar anymore. So, let's talk about your grandson. And imagine you at your heaviest point in your life.
Yeah.
And compare that to now and the interactions with your grandson.
Well, and that was one of the reasons that so he was born in 2012, and I had my surgery in 2012. She was not pregnant at the time when I started looking into the gastric bypass surgery, but I was thinking, if I ever have grandkids, I want to be able to play with them, and I want to be able to run around and do things with them. And he was looking at my phone a couple of months ago, the last time I went to visit in California, and he was looking through the pictures, and so many people say, I don't recognize you. I would never know that was you when they see my before picture. And I don't know how kids do this, but he looked at the pictures, and he was on the phone, and he said, oh, look, there's Grandbob, my husband Bob. And he said, and there's Chase, and there's Mommy, and there's Daddy. And I laughed when he said this. He looked at one of my before pictures, and I said, who's that? And he said, that's Big Mimi, because he calls me Mimi. But I was Big Mimi, and I don't want to be Big Mimi. I want to be Mimi. I want to be me. I want to be this size and a little bit smaller, and I want to be able to run and play and hang out and not feel like I'm old and tired, which is what I was doing before.
And keto does that for us.
Yep. And now I need a tissue.
Yeah. See, everybody does. How much weight have you and Justin lost?
For me, it's been a slow process, and I'm okay with that because my initial transition to keto was to get my A1C in balance. I was a little out of control with my numbers because my hormones, so I've lost about 18 pounds, which is really hard for a diabetic, so I celebrate that. But my husband has lost 45 and still has a ways to go that he is just fighting hard for. So it's been really beautiful to see him just keep dwindling. We just moved into our first home and he just keeps shrinking. He's like, I've done another 5 pounds. I'm like, you're wasting away. So it's been really neat.
So how has keto affected, so you've got the weight loss, but how has it affected you with the diabetes?
Yeah, it has given me my choice back. It's given me my ability to control my life and to control what I put in and what I don't put in to my mouth. And food was always in charge. Sugar was always in charge. And when you're not allowed to have sugar as a diabetic, what you do, what you don't want to do, you find ways to consume that at large quantities. And I just couldn't figure out why I was always chasing my blood sugars and always having headaches, migraines, joint inflammation, so many other conditions just that I don't struggle with as much now. I have to be careful if I do have too many carbohydrates, I can still flare up, but it's given me the ability to be me and to live my life the way I think I was intended to and that God's intended me to live.
So metabolically, what has happened with your A1C and your continuous blood sugar compared to previous?
Yeah, so a typical day used to be like a roller coaster. I mean, loop-de-loops and twists and turns. You never knew what was going to spike the blood sugar, whether it be stress, hormones, food. A lot of it was food, but I would spike or swing into the 300 or 400s, which if you're diabetic, you know that's a no-no. And then I would bottom out into the low 40s or 50s, and I just rode this roller coaster, which then develops really severe mood swings because you cannot manage that kind of rapid from a high to a low and vice versa. And so I rarely spike over 200, and when I do, it comes right back down. I rest, in the 120s to 150s, which is phenomenal for me. And my goal is to continue not only eating ketogenic, but exercising and seeing, do I need as much insulin as maybe I thought I did, and can we tweak with that as well? So I think that it's given me just that stability in control of my numbers, because now if I'm like 180, I feel sky high. Like, wow, I used to feel sky high at 400, so that's been really empowering.
I just, when I cheat, and we've gone out, when we had family in town, we went out and we had a lovely dinner at this awesome restaurant. We had their famous dessert. Their whole restaurant is named after this dessert, so we all split it. And all of us were on the ketogenic way of eating. The next morning, we almost had a hangover. I felt nauseous. I had a headache. I was light sensitive. I just had that crappy feeling that you get when you drink too much, and all because of the carbs. And I was like, wow. And it was just really eye-opening because I'd only been on ketogenics for about 3 to 4 weeks when that happened. And that was kind of like, okay, well, that's how I used to feel all the time. Why would I ever want to put myself through that again? And so it's easy to implement. It's not all consuming as far as prep, as far as implementing it into your lifestyle. And so it's just worked really well for me and my family, and I feel great.
What's it done for you as a young mother, a stay-at-home mother? How's that helped?
So as a mom, staying at home, it has dramatically changed. One, my baby still wakes up 3 times a night as an 8-month-old. I haven't slept in 8 months. So it's given me enough energy to be present with my children, to be patient with my very passionate son. We are working on so many different character building things with him, and it takes a lot of discipline for me as a parent, because I have to be the one to be consistent. If I'm not consistent, he's not going to learn those different things that are so hard, to build his character. And so it helps me stay consistent as a parent. It helps me have more patience and more grace for him and more love. And otherwise, like when I first was, staying at home with a newborn and him, and yes, my hormones were all over the place, but I would just sometimes fly off the handle, and I would have to go lock myself in my bedroom to calm down because I was so hot with emotion. Let's put it that way. So it's really helped me like even out as a mom and just kind of have a little bit of more of the like a big picture frame of mind instead of being so consumed by each situation individually.
And how have you incorporated ketogenic concepts into his diet?
He's been tricky. My son is my son. He loves carbs. If I gave this kid rice, noodles, PB&J every day, he'd be a happy camper. So I'm starting with meat because I can at least get some chicken nuggets in him or a hot dog, things like that. But he is extremely stubborn and extremely picky. And we have gotten to the point where if he doesn't eat what we give him, he doesn't eat. So he'll eventually get there. There's hope.
What about almond milk?
Oh.
Pork rinds?
Oh yeah, he loves pork rinds. He's not really into almond milk. He was at first, and now I think he thinks it tastes weird. And he doesn't really drink milk at all anymore. He's really water. We don't do juice in the house. We never have. We don't do fruit snacks or candy or anything like that. Literally all he eats are chicken nuggets, hot dogs, peanut butter and jelly.
Eggs?
Eggs. He does eat eggs and sausage for breakfast pretty much every morning. So that's because that's what I eat. So we're working on him, and he's come a long way. So.
But any change is better than.
Absolutely.
You don't keep candy or cookies.
No, and we never have. We don't do juice. Juice is just sugar. Juice is sugar. Fruit is sugar. It all breaks down the same thing. So.
I have lost 87 pounds so far in a little over a year. And everybody's different. So you're on a different journey. You have a different background. You have a different metabolism. You're a male, you're a female. You have a lot to lose. You have a little to lose. My weight loss was pretty quick in the beginning. Yours may not be. But don't sweat it. You're in it for the long haul. I've spent 53 years. Well, I've spent 52 years getting to the point I was. The dramatic turnaround I have done in 1 year is astounding. So the fact that my weight loss has slowed right now, I like to say that a plane slows down as it reaches its destination. You can't just keep running it as a sprint. It's a marathon. It's a long haul. You have to be happy in the changes and don't focus on the scale. Do not focus on the scale. My sister Cindy found plenty of uses for it. It makes a great doorstop. You can find things to do with it. It's a serving tray for bacon, I don't think you included that one in your video. But the clothes, I went from a 5X to a medium. I actually skipped the large size. I wore my extra large so long that I could pull them out like this. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Nobody can tell I've lost weight because my extra large shirt is out to here. So I went to the store and I saw the first thing I picked up, it was a medium. I was like, oh, let me see it. I wrapped it around me and I was like, that might just work. So I was like, all right, let's look at some pants. And I was like, I wonder if I can get to a 36 because I was wearing 38s then. Wrapped them around. I was like, wow. I hadn't been losing a lot of weight at that point, but my body has reshaped and I have gotten smaller and my profile looks like this now. And so it has been an amazing journey, and I just can't imagine ever going back. I can't imagine if anyone else who says you can't live without carbs tried this for even a week or two, that you wouldn't say, wow, this is a game changer. This is a lifestyle that can really change me. So how would you compare this lifestyle to other diets, and will you ever change?
I can't go back. I can't go back to eating the things that made me feel so miserable. And I also have a really severe gluten intolerance. And so I remember when I switched to 100% gluten-free, and people were like, oh my gosh, do you miss bread? And I'm like, no, I do not miss feeling that way. And I think that now having keto, I don't miss feeling that way. And so I might have 50 carbs one day and I might have 20 another, and I'm okay with that vacillation, but I could never go back to feeling miserable. And I think that I get to feel so wonderful and eat such good food that why? Why would I want to?
When I was born, I was 5.5 pounds. I was premature in 1933. And I didn't have a problem with my weight through high school until I joined the military, and then I went from 150 pounds up to about 170 when I got married. A year later, I was 240 pounds. And my health bounced all over the place. In probably the early 1970s, I was diagnosed as type 2 diabetic. And the problem was that they said that I had probably had diabetes quite a number of years before it was diagnosed. They put me on glucophage, and I went probably a year on that. And then all of a sudden my blood sugars dropped down, and I no longer had to take any medication. I was diet controlled. I hung around 202 to 215 pounds for a long time, and in that time frame they said that with having diabetes and not knowing it, I began to have neuropathy in my feet severely. I had quite a number of issues in pain in my feet, and just especially started losing my hearing, and then started having severe eye problems. So as we look back through the years now, we see that my eating habits back in the late 50s, or middle to late 50s, and the 60s and the 70s really did a lot of damage to my body that I wasn't aware of. So when we learned about the ketogenic lifestyle, June of last year, and we began to do that, there were quite a number of things happened. The neuropathy in my feet was much less. I also was experiencing a lot of not leg cramps. It's the squirmy legs. You know, I couldn't sit still.
Restless legs.
Pardon?
Restless legs.
Restless legs. And in church, I'd be, throwing my feet all over the place. That's gone. No more trouble with my A1C. No problem with my blood sugars. I have found that the ketogenic lifestyle has really given me a lot more clarity in my mind. I'm 84 years old now. Clarity of the mind, 84, 85. And, but it's I wake up in the morning, that's the first thing I want to have even before breakfast is be sure I'm working on my ketones. I also take the Keto OS, which I think bolsters what I'm doing. I've really had a really good ride on the keto lifestyle. I've had very few problems in over a year now as far as hunger and things like that. As long as I eat my balance in the keto lifestyle, I really have I think really good energy for my age. I sleep better. I think I behave a little better, don't I? Yeah, a little bit anyway.
All right, when I got married 62 and a half years ago, I weighed 145. Then I had 4 children, and every time I bounced right back to 134. I never went over 134. And I thought, well, that's good. And then my husband went into full-time ministry people were always inviting us out to eat. We had wonderful potluck dinners, and slowly my weight went up and up and up. My highest was 217, and when I was 67, I was diagnosed as being a diabetic. I was at work one night, and I didn't feel good, and working in a hospital, the nurses called the emergency room and said, "You get up there." And my blood sugar was over 600. So right away, they said, "See your primary doctor in the morning," which I did, and he said, "I'm going to give you a shot of insulin right now." And eventually I was put on insulin all the time, diagnosed as being a type 1 diabetic, but I'd probably had symptoms that I used to think I was just tired and run down, and I had to have something sweet, some orange juice or something. And I was always thirsty. So I have now been on insulin. I am 83. I had to stop and think how old I was. And I've been on insulin since then. My A1C went up to 8.6. I started the ketogenic lifestyle last year, and I dropped to 6.8. My endocrinologist said, "What are you doing?" And we told her we were on a low-carb diet. And she said, "Well, whatever it is, just keep doing it because you're doing good." So I went back last month, and she said, "You're still doing good. Just keep on doing what you're doing." So I was put on the pump a year and 1 year ago, and it's helped regulate my blood sugar. Of course, with my diabetes, some days it causes me to go up a bit or down, but I feel much better. I sleep very good, and life is great.
I think that you need to realize that you have a choice and that you can choose to live better and to be empowered with informed self-care, and that you don't actually have to have all of those carbohydrates at every meal. And I didn't know that until we experimented. And I think that you do need to be under supervision of a doctor, healthcare provider, naturopath practitioner. And I'm grateful that my mom's a nurse, because, we do have that safety mechanism for me. So I don't encourage people to just go off of what their doctor might advise. But I do think there's a lot of hope and a lot of healing on the other side of diabetes. And I don't think it has to be a debilitating disease as we have seen it. And I think that type 1 diabetics can live vivacious, healthy, but energetic lives full of passion. And I think that when food no longer dictates what we do and do not do, but that we have stability because we have fat as our fuel source, we have ketones as our fuel source, I feel like I'm able to do so much more and to be fully present, fully engaged, fully alive, and to be a better version of me and to actually do what I'm called to do on this earth. So I would encourage you to discover who you are. What is your balance? What's your boundary? How can you start small and just make tiny changes over time to be a better version of you?
There are days I don't have to take any bolus until late afternoon or evening before the evening meal. I haven't felt hungry. I don't have cravings anymore, and it's just been so much better. I feel better, have more energy. We like to garden and go for trips, which we do quite often.
I load her pump, and since we've been on the ketogenic lifestyle, her insulin intake on an average is down probably around 30%. And of course, as her weight goes down, she's more stable and not loading up on all the poisons. Her blood sugars have stabilized way down, where she used to have highs of 250, 280, 300, and she's had lows as low as 20. She stabilizes right around 110, 115. I go to a regular doctor, and I also go to the VA doctor and have checkups. The last trip I made to my VA doctor in Fredericksburg, he asked me why my numbers were looking so good on my blood report. And I told him that, we were doing the ketogenic lifestyle. He had his back to me because he was typing all the answers to his questions. And he, as I said, ketogenic lifestyle, he turned around, and this is a 30-year Navy doctor working for the VA now, and he said that is the best program there is out there. He made it very emphatic.
So for just a few minutes, let's talk a little bit about how much the scales are liars and why we don't want to use it. Because as you reduce your carbohydrate intake and as you start having that bully, that insulin level, we're calling it a bully, aren't we? Because it literally pushes against your fat cells and pushes stuff into them. So in the presence of insulin, which happens in the presence of carbs, we are locked out from using all those savings accounts of the fat cells. So when we voluntarily reduce our carbohydrate, what happens to our insulin?
The insulin is going to drop out. I mean, if the carbohydrates aren't there, there's nothing telling the pancreas to come on. Come out and play.
Yep. And if you're insulin resistant, if you've been told you're pre-diabetic or you have metabolic X, that ability for the insulin to come down will take longer than someone that doesn't have that. But as you do that, and you can now, the doors to your fat cells are opened up, and the body can pull all those millions of calories you think we saved over there. How much should we add up? What's our current today?
So here you go. As of today, now we're here. This is what anybody who follows Ask Nurse Cindy or Keto Kaleidoscope, this was our Keto Extravaganza wedding style weekend. We ended up doing a lot more private stuff and not doing many videos.
It was great.
But we had such a wonderful time. Yeah. And just this evening, after we did our 2-part video on the bariatric surgery, which it was 2-part because we lost connection out here in the country. We had no reception at the reception yesterday. Nope. That's why we couldn't.
There's a whole lot we couldn't do this weekend, but we enjoyed our family time together.
But I got a piece of paper and wrote down the names of everybody here and their spouses who weren't here. And I even had to call my son and ask him and his girlfriend. So the entire family, when we figured it up, on ketogenic, we have lost over 550 pounds within our family. And then
on ketogenic, and then we looked back at each of our highest weights ever, and we added that up. In total, half a ton.
1,122.
22, I thought it was 26. 22 pounds. 1122
pounds.
Today is June, what is the date? June something 2016. June 10th or 12th.
So the wedding was on the 11th.
Okay, so it's the 12th of June 2017. Those of you that follow me know I cannot keep track of dates.
Keto typically works better with mental clarity, but
not about dates if you're date inspired.
So, what is your response to your family losing 1,122 pounds?
I didn't say a dirty word, but I said, holy mackerel. I think mackerel was the word. That was the second word I used. I was really stunned because we had been kind of keeping track of the weights as we went along, but I hadn't really gone back and considered total weights since all of us actually, our highs that each of us experienced. And we'd been tracking around 450, 500 pounds. When you told me tonight that they had doubled over 1,100 pounds, that's over half a ton. That's a lot of blubber being lost by the family.
You've lost half the family.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. It used to be a half a person, but now it's a half a family. That's well put.
So we want you guys to know that we're here for you. We've struggled as a family. Yep. We know what it's like. We know how.
We're passionate about this.
We want to help you.
With Cindy's Ask Nurse Cindy site and my Keto Kaleidoscope, the reason it's Keto Kaleidoscope is if you ever look through a kaleidoscope, it doesn't take much. Mm-hmm. One change can change the whole view, your outlook, your future, and this is that change. You know, we're both nurses, but we're not doctors. We're not your doctor. This is about informed self-care. You looking into and trying things that work for you. Like Cindy did her fast, and then I did the fast. I did it just to try it out and learn some things about myself. And when I finished, I ate on a Tuesday night and didn't eat again till lunch on Friday. And I was shocked that Friday morning when I woke up, I felt just as good as I did on
Now
Wednesday
my
morning.
fast was a little different. Those of you that followed my fast journey, I struggled with mine quite a bit, and that's not uncommon with women with hormones. And I don't think I supplemented with enough salt. I think I was a little sodium depleted.
I was slamming the chicken broth.
Yeah, not so much me. So what we want you to know is it's a journey, it's a process. We've learned a lot in the year because we've invested in reading the research and learning and listening to podcasts. We want you to understand it's a process with you, and your journey won't be ours. And it won't be Rachel's, and it won't be Lauren's or anyone else's. It's your journey.
But it's been such a life-changing thing for us that we can't help but share.
We want to help you.
Yeah.
We want to educate you, and then you choose how you employ it or not. But we do encourage you to be under some physician supervision. I found a link of different doctors that are willing to do ketogenic, and I'm going to post that. And I don't know how current it is or how complete, but I know that if you live in the Cleveland Clinic area, if you live down near Duke, if you live through any one of a number of prestigious university areas, there's people that do integrative medicine that they understand ketogenic. So we'll post that link so you can start to look around. There's lots of support online. And then Justin Thomas, Rachel's husband, has started his own Facebook page for men. We've got Keto Kaleidoscope. Rachel D, of course, you guys know her from my other videos. But I've got to run because it's late, and we're going to get the kids to bed in the hotel.
Yeah,
But
you can hear them running around upstairs. They've been up for days.
yeah, it's time to take them home, so we're back to the hotel. But you guys are great. We appreciate everything you do, and we will keep pumping out the information, and you keep learning.
Yep.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.